Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. This is our big football show, our Sunday show, where you can come and get all your local Northeast sports, professional sports coverage. And of course, we also cover the rest of the NFL. We're on Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. You can see us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. On Facebook, go to username at MacMan62, and it'll bring you right to our show live. You can check us out on macandjacksports.com for our website, which is excellent. It's called Mac's Insiders, where you can get a lot of information on sports and our guests. We're also at Mac and Jack Sports. You can Google that and bring you to all our shows, YouTube and Twitch. Instagram, we also have a site, Mac and Jack Sports, that has all your local sports, football teams, baseball teams, all the news of your team and your rivals. We're at Twitter at MacManMcGrath. And as I said, check out our website. It's really coming together. Like, follow, and share, and subscribe where you can to help us keep growing. I'm Mac with my co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association, and our show's historian. How you doing today, Jack?
Nothing like a football Sunday, Mac.
Yes, sir. In fact, we got a couple great guests coming up, Jack. We have Anthony Cervino. He's our weekly fantasy football expert and also helps us break down some of three of the biggest games, I would say, of the week, or at least the most important games of the week. And we also have our opinionated broadcaster from Sports Skope, who we ask not just questions on games, but football in general and the sport coming in. So we're going to get to the updates and news first, Jack, before we get into all our football coverage. Boxing, Terrence Crawford stops Kell Brook in fourth-round flurry. He's now 37-0. He kind of switched his stance to like a southpaw and began the flurry. He started scoring quickly as Brook was scoring really good in the first 3 rounds. Brook is now 39-3. What do you think about the fight, Jack?
Well, Terrence Crawford now is the consensus #1 pound-for-pound fight in the world. Before Lomachenko lost to Teofimo Lopez, it was a toss-up between Vasily Lomachenko and Terrence Crawford, who was the best fight in the world. But now it's Terrence Crawford. But he has a ton of potential competition in and around the welterweight division. But the problem is promotional allegiances. He's with Top Rank with Bob Arum, who doesn't have the other elite welterweights under his promotional banner. But with that said, last night, Terrence Crawford once again showed his greatness. He really basically gave 3 rounds away to Kell Brook because he knew he could turn the switch on whenever he wanted to. And as soon as Terrence Crawford turned the switch on, it was lights out for Kell Brook. I mean, he just basically finished him very quickly and in sensational fashion.
There you go. And then some college news, Jack, some top players from Saturday. A couple quarterbacks that we kept kind of overlook, where we talk about Trevor Lawrence and Fields. But Sam Howell, a quarterback from North Carolina, threw for 550 yards and 6 touchdowns. They won the game. It was like a high school basketball game. So they won 59-53. You had Kyle Trask, quarterback of Florida, has thrown for at least 4 touchdowns in every game this year and 6 yesterday. So there's a couple quarterbacks that aren't really mentioned when we talk about the draft class coming up, and maybe they'll be up near the top, Jack.
It makes me laugh when I see these projected drafts, sometimes as much as a year in advance, who's going to go where, because it changes very quickly. Over the course of a couple of days, someone who's not on anyone's radar, all of a sudden becomes an appealing option. And you're going to get a number of quarterbacks out there, and there might be even 1 or 2 we wouldn't even think to mention that all of a sudden might pop up as being a potential late round, first round draft choice. So you never know. It's still a bit early in the process. it's going to play out. You're going to see a number of players. Their stock is going to go up and some is going to go down.
A running back, Caleb Huntley from Ball State, he rushed for 204 yards, 3 touchdowns as they beat Eastern Michigan. Indiana wide receiver Ty Fagel, try saying that 3 times fast, caught 11 passes for 200 yards and 2 TDs as they Indiana shut out Michigan State 24-0. So there's a couple other people that you could be looking for as future draft picks that are having big years.
Michigan State gets shut out 24-0. And Michigan, I'm sure you're going to get to them any moment. What's going on with Michigan football? The state of Michigan. It was traditionally one of the football-rich states. They're becoming a non-entity now.
Very true. I was going to get to, but since you brought it up right now, Michigan gets beat soundly. And I don't know. We talked about John Harbaugh in the past. Is he going to be there? You seem to feel that he's got
Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, his coach is the coach of his brother's the coach of the Baltimore
Ravens. Right. But thanks for the correction. And I think we talked about him at Michigan. Why he's still there. He really hasn't improved the program. They can't beat Ohio State. They can't beat some of their arch rivals, and now they're starting to lose to not even the good teams in college. They look totally unprepared, and their defense looked terrible. So we talked about him possibly maybe moving back up to the NFL. I don't even know if the NFL will want him now.
Mac, they lose 49-11 to Wisconsin.
Right.
And the worst thing that could happen to a coach is when you become non-competitive. It would have been bad enough if they lost by 3 points to Wisconsin, but to lose by 38 points.
Yeah.
And he's been there for a while. He's been there for years. And the program is going backwards.
Yes.
It's going backwards. And that hurts recruiting.
Yeah.
He could be your guy. You might have faith in him. You might feel in Michigan he's a good coach, that he's going to turn things around. But it's not an appealing destination for elite high school players to go to anymore.
You bring up a point that I kind of want to expand on it, and that's, of course, recruiting. I always felt that the NCAA, the way it's set up, and way some college universities is unfair, kind of like what Notre Dame was a while back when they had their own network. They were on NBC when a lot of, I would say their network, NBC covered every game they had. So Notre Dame got most of the recruits because they knew they were going to be on TV every weekend. And that's very important when it comes to drafting and all that stuff. And, of course, it's important to the school with recruiting. But now the way sports are covered, and college football included, there's so many different sports outlets that they're all being covered. So, but there's still, Jack, there is an unfair advantage to some of the teams and programs out there where Alabama gets so many recruits, they get top recruits, Clemson, Ohio State. These teams, I don't know how you fix it, but it becomes where, at the beginning of the year now, there's 3 teams that are going to compete for the championship. We know that before the season starts, and kind of makes it a little uninteresting to me. I can only watch Alabama blow out a team, so many times during the year, Jack.
Mac, I think the coaches sell the program because the very elite high school athletes, they're paid visits by the coaches. And you mentioned Alabama. If Nick Saban is paying a visit to your home, that carries a lot of weight over, most of the other coaches. And I think it's a question, once a program gets to a certain high level, it's much easier to maintain. But once it dips down and it starts becoming a bit irrelevant, it's hard to boost it back up again.
We just mentioned Jim Harbaugh, and that's what Michigan was hoping. He took, the 49ers to the Super Bowl, had seasons, and they thought bringing him there would be a great thing for their recruiting. But the advantage, like a team like Notre Dame had way back in the 70s, 80s,
Yeah.
that's gone now. But again, Jack, I don't know how you fix the unfairness in the college right now. And, you're allotted so many recruits in certain divisions. I've read all about this before. It can get very complicated and boring. But it just seems that the whole NCAA is set up in a crazy way where who's going to win. And I think that if the NCAA considered restructuring some of sort of like the NFL, Jack, suppose you took, say, the North Division and you put the best schools from the North in that division. You did the same thing, North, South, East, West, Central, stuff like that. And you got the top teams from those areas, restructured it like that. The lesser teams in Division 1A, like UConn or UMass, these guys ain't got a chance to even smell, to get near a championship. If you did something like that and you broke down the teams like that and kind of had playoffs like that, instead of saying, well, we think our experts think Alabama's number 1 and Clemson's number 2 and we got 4 teams. I'm all for that. But let the regular season mean something and be more competitive, I think would make college a lot more exciting, Jack.
Mac, it mirrors professional sports. Let's face it. You look at college, who's going to make the playoffs, who's eventually going to be the national champion. It's only a certain amount of teams could get there. Basically comes down at the end of the day to a maximum of maybe 8-10 teams who are going to, win it all at the end. I mean, we all know that. The same way as the NFL, you kind of know who's going to be there at the end, who's going to be contending. Once in a while, there's a surprise. This is the same way in college basketball. That mirrors the NBA. Certain programs, are going to have the elite players. And unless there's a major surprise in the NCAA tournament, you know who's going to be there at the end. You just know it. But college is supposed to be to get an education, right? It's supposed to be a little different. And we kind of lose sight of that. But in reality, it's a breeding ground for your professional sports.
Especially the NFL, Jack.
Especially it's their minor league system.
Yes.
Baseball has a minor league system.
Right.
And college isn't it, even though they might draft players out of college. But in Major League Baseball, if a high school player is truly elite, they're going to give him enough of a signing bonus where he won't go to college.
Right.
He's going to go right to the minor leagues.
Exactly. And again, Jack, I understand that, I understand that maybe, it is supposed to be about education. But when you have programs, and I'll give you an example out in Connecticut, UConn is a Division 1A school, right? And they will get money for them. Say to play, let me just say they play Notre Dame. Notre Dame will give them money to their program to pay, for them for their program. Now, UConn is a Division 1A school, and to be a Division 1A school, you have to certain rules that you've got to recruit a certain amount of players. You got to have money for this, okay? To actually have this program. Now, UConn loses money every year.
Yeah.
And being in the Division 1A, and they're not. I mean, they are not competitive at all. I mean, there's no way they have a chance in hell to play for a national championship. Not even get close to the playoffs. They're losing money, and football and college supports mainly all the rest of the programs. I mean, you got your volleyball, you got your, you got your tennis programs, you got your rowing programs, you got your wrestling programs, and football supports all these programs that also, because of title, I think it's, am I saying it right? Title 19 about minorities getting women's sports.
Title 9.
Title 9. Thank you. So Title 9, you have to have scholarships designated for these different competitive teams.
Yeah, but
okay?
Once in a while, what they do, certain smaller schools, they throw them a bone and let them play against the major program. Like years ago, Binghamton got to play Duke in the NCAA finals, in the NCAA tournament. It
Right.
was the first game, and just the idea that Binghamton was playing the mighty Duke was that those were memories of a lifetime for the kids.
True.
Of course, everyone knew Binghamton was going to get blown out, but they got to share the court with royalty. And
Yeah.
they always say they played Duke in the big dance.
I can understand that, Jack, but I mean, that's a 1-year thing. That's for those kids on the court and maybe the fans for that one day. But to really make, I think, the NCAA, the divisions more equal and more competitive, I would love to see, you got Alabama, you've got Georgia, you've got Florida, Miami, and in one division. I mean, it's now you're going to say that I think it would become more competitive, that maybe the other schools would have a better chance at getting some of them players instead of Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State coming in and taking all the great high school talent out there and then leaving, Eastern Michigan with nothing.
Can you imagine the day comes where colleges are going to be able to draft high school athletes?
Right.
That they're not going to have a choice of the college they want. They high school athlete is going to be able to list, let's say, a half dozen colleges that they're willing to go to, that they would go to, and they're put into a draft. Could you imagine that's done for equality?
Wow.
I mean, it sounds crazy, but the way things are going in college sports, it's actually a viable idea.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to turn to baseball for one quick second here. The great Johnny Bench, perhaps the greatest catcher of all time, he liquidated his memorabilia to an auction, Jack, and got close to $2 million for his memorabilia, $125,000 just for a World Series ring. I guess he has a couple kids that are going to college. He's going to be 73, I think, next month, and he liquidated to fund their schooling. It's interesting to me what people will pay for certain things that other players either wore or did, or a pitcher. It's really interesting to me that people would give $125,000 for a ring. Jeff.
Mac, I'm thinking of the guy who spent $3 million for Mark McGwire's 70th home run.
Yeah.
70th home run. And the guy who spent the $3 million, obviously he was wealthy, but he said, I don't have the type of mega money that other very rich people have. So to me, this is an important investment. Now he spends $3 million for the ball, for the McGwire's 70th homer, but then Barry Bonds breaks the record with 73. So McGwire's 70th home run ball that he spent $3 million for is devalued to the point. What could it be worth today? 50,000, 100,000.
Yeah.
Talk about an investment. But with that said, why would anyone want to buy it and have Johnny Bench's World Series rings? What could it mean to them? It must mean a lot to Johnny Bench. Johnny Bench earned it.
Yeah.
He earned it. And what's someone else going to do? Wear Johnny Bench's ring? Something that they didn't earn?
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't understand people. And the amount that they're spending, too.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone is wealthy beyond words like a Steve Cohen, the new Mets owner, I can understand certain purchases, but the amount of money being spent on on basic memorabilia, if it's something historic like Joe Lewis's trunks or gloves when he knocked out Max Schmeling, and you want to buy the set and it means enough to you, I can kind of understand. But the amount of money being spent on this memorabilia, and my prediction is the value of these items it's going to go down substantially in time. It really is. And
eventually
you could buy a house, Mac, a house with some of the things that people are spending on memorabilia.
I guess they got a lot of money, Jack. I guess maybe it's a write-off. I don't get it. I mean, I don't understand why you want. I mean, you saw a baseball card sold for $1 million. You see, I mean, I even got a little memorabilia, Jack, that I didn't spend no money for. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called the Babe Ruth Home Run Song. It was actually published back like in I think it was 1920. And I got the cover for that. I proudly display it. but I think I looked it up and it's worth, something thousands of dollars or whatever. But I really don't care about it. I got it because I got it. And I mean, I'm not looking to sell it. I'm just, I don't know. I just don't understand.
Listen, I have the Muhammad Ali Joe Frazier program from their first fight, the fight of the century.
Right.
And I had, I got it at Madison Square Garden. I still keep it for myself. But there was a heartwarming story. Vladimir Klitschko was selling his gold medal to raise money for charity, not for himself, for his foundation. Someone bought his gold medal for a reported $1 million.
Right.
And they gave it for the foundation, but what they did afterwards, they gave Vladimir Klitschko back his gold medal.
Wow.
They bought it, but they wanted him to have the gold medal. Now, that's a nice story, because what good would someone else's gold medal mean putting it around my, hanging it around me? I mean, I didn't earn it.
Yeah.
It's theirs. They earned it. So I don't understand people. They're living some kind of distorted fantasy that they think they can buy greatness. I mean,
I can understand if it's a childhood memory or it's something that brings you back. But just, I don't know. I guess it's the same thing with artwork. I guess it's any value that you want to put on things, I would imagine. So, so Jack, and finish it up on college. I mean, you got 4 teams that seem to be heading for the championship. You got Alabama, of course, they're always in the discussion. You got Clemson, even though they lost to Notre Dame, that was without Trevor Lawrence. And then you got Ohio State that a lot of people are thinking might really be the number 1 team in the country. And then at number 4, you got Notre Dame. And, Notre Dame to me has a team that can get to the to that promised land, but can't close the deal. I mean, I know they beat Clemson. It was without Trevor Lawrence, and they barely beat Clemson. But it seems when they get to that big game, whether it's against Alabama or Ohio State or a really big, good university, they don't have what they used to have to come over the top and actually to win those games anymore.
It's a new year. They have some new players. I never like to hear that a team can't beat another team unless it's shown during the actual year where they played, because it's funny, you hear about one team always losing to another team, but they were different players.
Right.
I don't want to hear that one team is 7-0 against another team lifetime. I mean, what did it mean? I mean, some of those games took place 18 years ago.
Right.
It really is basically irrelevant. I mean, Notre Dame hasn't been a power for years, while the other teams like Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State have. So it's like Notre Dame is kind of crashing the party now, in a way. So we want to see, can they upend the power balance in college football? And Notre Dame's a sentimental favorite, any way you look at it. Sentimental favorite because of the magic of the name itself. They're Notre Dame. I think in a certain sense, everyone likes to see them back on top, just like people might hate to see the New York Yankees win the World Series because they'd hate to see, such a powerful entity get back on top. I think we kind of tend to root for the underdog, and Notre Dame is the underdog here. And maybe they still beat Clemson with Trevor Lawrence in there. I mean, who's to say that they wouldn't have done it that day?
I definitely agree with that. And it leads me to a point you were just talking about as far as not being able to beat a team. We had on, we didn't have on, but I am on the Giants mailing list. Our show is anyway, and the Yankees mailing list for all their news and everything. They were talking to Joe Judge about that, and they were saying, the Eagles, the last 9 times have beat the Giants, and and the momentum, and of course Judge said just like what you said. You're talking about something that happened years ago.
Exactly.
Different coaches, different players. It's not the same. They kind of, every game is even losing that first game. He says that game's all done. We do know what happened that game. We'll try to fix it, and we'll go.
Listen, I'm guilty of that myself. What I said on yesterday's show I think it was yesterday, that Tennessee Titans had lost something like 8 of the last 9 home games against Indianapolis or something to that effect.
Right, right.
I'm not sure whether it was that game. I said it now on reflection, but I was making a reference to something that really was insignificant because a lot of those games took place, at least the early ones, where none of the players were on the rosters.
Yeah. And, but Jack, I think, of course, talking sports and being sports broadcasters, you look at every angle, and you talk about this is a statistic that pops up. But I think down deep there is something to that, Jack, because, we remember the Babe Ruth curse where the Red Sox, hadn't gone to a World Series for years. The Chicago Cubs, I think it was a GOAT thing where he was nibbling on the ivy on the outfield wall or something. And fans believe it. And and players are very superstitious. Some players and coaches too. They'll wear a certain shirt. They'll have a certain thing they do every day, a ritual they go through before they play. And if they don't go through that ritual or wear that shirt or that under t-shirt, if they don't do that, it's something in their mind that says, well, I had a good game doing this. Now I'm not going to have a good game. So I think there might be something to it, Jack, down deep.
Oh, well, listen, when they were building the new Yankee Stadium, someone threw a Red Sox flag underneath and they built over it. And when it was found out, they dug it back up.
You see?
This was a superstition. I mean, listen, we all have superstitions to a degree, or maybe it's just routines that we like to follow. Like pitchers supposedly don't like to step on the line when they're walking back to the dugout.
Right.
That's kind of a superstition, but it's all root. I mean, especially football players, they have their routines, how they like to do things, maybe what time they like to be there, how they like to put on their socks or whatever. So
yeah, I mean, now you want to hear how far this goes, all right? I mean, you remember Mike Golick as far as being a defensive tackle on the Eagles, and of course was a broadcaster for years with ESPN. So he said what he used to do every day is he used to make himself get sick. And if he didn't make himself get sick, he didn't have a good game. So he would actually force himself his first game, he got sick. So after that, and he had a good game. After that, he would make himself get sick.
Oh, by the way, my friend, you referred yesterday to Jerry Glanville, made it clear he was the coach of the Atlanta Falcons. 4 years Falcons, 5 years Houston Oilers. So
there you go.
He's a little more Houston Oilers coach.
Oh my God.
We were debating which one he was more coach of, and
more colorful. Yes.
Yeah, 1 extra year the Houston Oilers.
Okay, there you go. So you got me, Jack.
Yeah, well, barely by a half, by a nose.
Right, there you go. So we should have.
Look, no one's picking up the tickets for Elvis. I mean,
no,
can you imagine someone does pick it up?
Well, they did have a Elvis impersonator come down to the stadium, and Jerry Glanville was, taking pictures with him and said, "See, he's not dead." The guy was a total whack. I mean, Jerry Glanville was a funny guy. So coming up next, Jack, we have scheduled Anthony Cervino. He's from Fantasy Football Faceoff. He'll come on and he'll give us the best plays for this week, and then break down a few games with us. 2 games I think that are going to be really big games in a way, and one game that's not really big, but it has a lot of importance that will be attached to it, and that's why I want to kind of go over it with him. And again, after that, around 9 o'clock, he's scheduled. We have Robert Butler from Sports Skope will come in, and we talk about just mainly sports topics with him. We don't really get into the games, but it's very interesting on things that are going on out there and opinions and stuff like that. So we kind of use them for that. So hopefully we'll have Anthony coming in here in a few minutes. And until then, Jack, there's another thing I wanted to talk to you about as far as the football season goes. Now, if in fact the games start getting canceled, and they have to go to there's a contingency plan in place where they might go, instead of the 17 weeks combined with all the buys and stuff, they might go 18 weeks. And then if that doesn't really work out. They might even go to a 16-game playoff schedule. And I don't know if that means they're going to have byes or they're not going to have byes, if they're going to go 1-8 like they did in baseball. I understand that, there are going to be some games that maybe they'll have to play at the end of the year that they can't because of this. And as you see across the country right now, they're starting to maybe start closing things up again. What do you feel about that? Even with this, because of COVID, that they're going to do this if they have to. And that's if they have to. What do you think about that playoff format?
Matt, first off, they better not cut the season short for any one team, saying, well, it has no playoff implications, so we're not making them play the extra game because their playoff slot is already determined, okay? Because that one extra week, I don't have to tell you, means a lot. It allows a team to get an unfair advantage by resting players. They're going to be a little less banged up by teams that have to play the extra game.
Good point.
And increasing the playoff format, if anything, you think with the potential surge of COVID, they would want to cut the playoff format a little short to just get the season in.
Right.
I don't know what the capacity is going to be at Tampa for the Super Bowl. You hear 25%, then you hear maybe they'll allow everyone in, then maybe no one in. It keeps fluctuating back and forth. Governor DeSantis in Florida, he's a believer, just let everyone in. I mean, I have doubts whether that's going to be viable at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's going to be up to the NFL as well as up to him too. So we do have
they make arrangements.
We do have fantasy expert coming in with Anthony Cervino. He also breaks down 3 of our games with us. 2 I think are very important, and 1 not as important as the 2 as far as competition wise goes, but as far as the season goes, where are they going is going to be a thing I'm going to want to break down with him. So let's welcome one of the hosts of Fantasy Football Faceoff. Go check out his site. It's a really good site. Not only do they do fantasy, they break down games. They talk about all the relevant news in football. And Anthony does a great job out there. How you doing today, Anthony?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
We're hanging in. Yeah, we were just talking about the 16 playoff format and the Super Bowl, and are they going to be in a bubble? I mean, there's so many questions out there. With this year's sports, and especially with winter kicking in, and so we were just saying what we thought about that kind of stuff. What do you think, Anthony? You think they're going to try and do maybe a bubble, the playoffs, where they go to one place or 2 places?
I never actually thought of that because the NFL is so big. Like the NBA, you can put all of those teams because there's 15, maybe 20 guys, including the coaches. With the NFL, even doing the playoffs in a bubble, you're still looking at 53, plus you have 15 to 20 on the COVID practice squad. And then, every position seemingly has a coach. You're looking at like 90 guys a team.
Yeah, and that's not counting all their support either. That's got to go with them,
right?
Trainers. I mean, that would be well over 100 people each. Yeah, it'd be very tough to do.
That's that's 4 NBA teams.
Yeah.
I felt they should have done in the beginning of the year, and this would guarantee the season gets finished. Put them all in the bubble, but only let the teams within the division play one another. For example, instead of them playing one another twice a year, they play one another like 4 times a year. And then just get the division winners and wild cards that way, and then have them go to a neutral site and play it out that way. But all this travel back and forth, trying to make it a normal NFL season, I think ultimately that's complicating things, during this time.
Yeah, but back to what Anthony says, now you're talking all them people that are involved, even with them 4 teams, Jack. That's like 400 people, that you're talking about in one place.
Yeah.
And, it would be very difficult to do just because of the size of the organizations itself that they didn't have in baseball or basketball. So let's get to the best plays first, Anthony, by position, and tell us what you think the best plays are this week.
Let's start at the quarterback position for week 10. And I'm going to keep rolling the dice. And it's not really rolling the dice, but Kyler Murray, he's been the best fantasy quarterback this year. And essentially, he's doing what Lamar Jackson did last year on the ground. Kyler Murray is leading rushing quarterbacks in most statistical categories. I believe he scored a rushing touchdown in every game this year.
Yeah.
So Kyler Murray, he's a must start. He's matchup proof at this point. Another guy, let's go maybe more under the radar with Jared Goff. Jared Goff's really inconsistent. When he looks good, he looks like the quarterback who was picked number 1 overall. When he looks bad, he looks like a guy like almost like a Kyle Allen. That's how bad Jared Goff could look. But he plays his best football against the Seattle Seahawks in his career. I believe the past 5 games against them, over 293 yards passing with a couple of 300-yard games mixed in. I think he's only lost once in his past 3 or 4 times going against Seattle. So Jared Goff is poised against that defense to have a big day.
Okay. Great.
Let's go to running back. And running back, we have a couple of guys out, like, Joe Mixon and Devonta Freeman is out. So let's keep it at the New York game. I like Wayne Gallman a lot. I thought when Saquon went down, Wayne Gallman should have been the starter. I don't know why they brought in Devonta Freeman. I did not like the move at all, especially at this juncture of Freeman's career. Last year in Atlanta, he looked like he took a complete nosedive of the player he was 3 or 4 years ago. And Wayne Gallman, anytime he has the opportunity, he usually plays well. And he now has a 3-game scoring streak that began 3 weeks ago against Philadelphia. So I love Wayne Gallman this week to have another repeat of performance. Another guy I like is Gio Bernard. Gio Bernard looks like Joe Mixon's all but ruled out. He was doubtful the last time I checked. And the past 2 games with Mixon on the shelf, Gio Bernard has had 20-plus PPR points. I believe he scored 3 touchdowns in a 2-game time span. And Pittsburgh recently, they still have a stout defense. They still have one of the best defenses in the league, but you could run on them a little bit. The past 2 games, I know Zeke had a respectable day, all things considered, last week. Tony Pollard, I believe, and Zeke combined for over 100 total yards. And the game before that, Baltimore rushed all over them. I think almost 200 combined yards between Dobbins and Gus Edwards. So you can run on this defense a little bit, and they have been bothered by the big play pass all year, starting in week 1 with Darius Slayton and the Giants.
Very true. Very true.
Is John Ross going to be a factor at all? I mean, he's been kept
he's on IR. John Ross is on injured reserve. I think he's only had 2.
Oh, I thought he was activated for this game.
I have to double check. I thought he's either been activated or they put him in IR. John Ross, though, I think his time at Cincinnati's done. They need to cut bait with that.
I think you're right, too.
No, okay, yeah. This morning he was placed on the injured reserve list. So
this morning, okay.
And I like John Ross coming out. I thought he was going to be a terrific player, but it was just injuries. And I think that rookie year with Marvin Lewis, I know Lewis benched him after a fumble, and that was a wrap.
Yeah. Supposedly it's an attitude issue. Yeah.
Let's go to the wide receiver position. A guy I like a lot today is Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, I think with Alex Smith, we're going to start seeing a big leap from McLaurin, who's already looked like he could be a stud with the right quarterback. He's looked impressive with Kyle Allen and Dwayne Haskins. I think Alex Smith is a big upgrade, even at 36 years old and coming off that injury. And now you get the Detroit Lions, who you can put up some production if you're a wide receiver against Detroit. And let's go one more wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy has been producing, I believe, 5 games with over 10 PPR points. His past 2 games especially have been the best 2 of his short career. He's posted career highs in targets, receptions, and yards in now back-to-back weeks. Scored a touchdown last week, and now you're going to go up against Oakland. I like Jerry Jeudy to be a big part of Drew Lock's career. If Drew Lock's going to be the guy in Denver, and we've seen Drew Lock kind of blossom the past couple of weeks, Jerry Jeudy is going to be a big part of it, and so is Cortland Sutton next year. But today, I like Jerry Jeudy a lot.
There you go. And let's take a quick break, because I want to talk about something you mentioned was Alex Smith. Alex Smith has always been a productive quarterback. I mean, he's not flashy, but man, he passed all over the Giant defense on his first game, and he's only going to get better. Do you see him coming up? With Washington. Washington is a competitive team. They're not going to go out there and win the division this year, but they're going to put up some good numbers. Do you think he's going to be a good play coming up, Anthony?
In fantasy or just in general?
Fantasy, definitely fantasy and in general.
I think he'll be okay in fantasy. He's not somebody I'm looking to rush and replace Matt Ryan with when Matt Ryan has a bad game. But I think he'll be worth looking at and monitoring. But as far as for the Washington football team, I think Alex Smith can go win this division if he plays like he did in Kansas City a couple of years ago.
It's a good point.
Point. How much? What are the Eagles? A game up?
Yeah, I mean, they're maybe a game and a half with the tie if you want to count the tie. Alex. He looked like he didn't miss a beat, and the Giants.
He threw 3 interceptions.
Yeah, the Giant defense. I imagine they got a lot of points last week with them 5 turnovers, but man, he looked pretty good.
But they have weapons.
Yeah,
McLaurin, Cam Sims, Antonio Gibson, McKissick. They have a good core around Alex Smith, and that defense with Ron Rivera, they're playing outstanding. I just think, this isn't Philly's division yet. I actually wouldn't if the Giants can pull together another win today.
Right.
Who's to say they can't make a run? And who's to say that they can't beat Philadelphia? Because Jason Garrett has had Philadelphia and Doug Peterson's number during his career in Dallas.
That's very true. That's
how the Eagles played stands out because in reality, teams like the Giants, if they win today, in reality, they have to make up 2 games still. But it's doable, but it's still a mountain to climb.
Well, I definitely think it's a bigger game for the Giants than the Eagles if you want to look at it like that. So let's get to the few games, Anthony. We got the Seahawks and the Rams. You mentioned, the quarterback for the Rams has, good games against Seattle. And Seattle's defense really doesn't look that good this year at all. Of course, you got Russell Wilson on the other side who can make plays all over the place. Do you see that maybe the Rams, we talk about Seattle, we talk about the Cardinals. Do you think the Rams can beat Seattle and maybe even win that division?
I think they can certainly beat Seattle because Jared Goff has Seattle's number, but I just think this Seattle offense is too good. It's just a matter of can their defense make a play and make Jared Goff turnover prone because he is normally turnover prone, but he plays clean against Seattle. Who's going to step up? Is it going to be Carlos Dunlap in his second game with the team? Jamal Adams in his second game back? They're both playmakers. Somebody has to step up and make a play because if they put it all on Russell Wilson, it's a wrap. And the 2 running backs, Hyde and Carson, they're out again. So that it's really all Russell Wilson.
We've heard about Russell Wilson all year. Obviously, he's having an MVP caliber type year if we want to forget about the 4 turnovers last week. But nothing said about his offensive line, who's done an outstanding job of protecting them all year. And now today, what's the intriguing part about today's game is Aaron Donald. Is he going to be able to get to Russell Wilson? To me, that's the big element of this game.
I think I heard a stat in the past couple of days that Aaron Donald has sacked Russell Wilson more than any other person has sacked Russell Wilson, and he's been productive in the past couple of games. The key to the game, if they can contain Aaron Donald, Seattle wins this game. But if Aaron Donald goes out and has 2.5 sacks, it's not. Then there's no way. Then I think that in that case, the Rams are going to have additional opportunities. Russell Wilson will turn the ball over, as we've seen. He's turned the ball over more this year than I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, well, that's what happens, Anthony, when you put all your eggs, they're going to be looking for the pass. They're going to put pressure on them. And, if you don't have a valid running game and your defense is, not giving you a chance to score, what can you do? I think Russell Wilson, of course, is one of the greatest in the league right now.
That's a good point because I think that we've seen this regression when Chris Carson got hurt.
Yeah. There's no other. He's going to pass, and if he gets pressure, he's going to kind of roll out. So he's played outstanding under the terms, the conditions he's been in. So we got the 49ers and Saints coming up, and the 49ers are decimated by injuries, especially on the offense. The Saints look like a powerhouse against Tampa. Do you think that for the 49ers to have a chance, in my opinion anyway, they're just going to have to dominate that Saints offense Or otherwise, the Saints are going to have another win here.
I don't see. I mean, unless Kyle Shanahan coaches a perfect game, and he could even coach a perfect game and still not beat the Saints. The Saints are playing really good football. And, there's so many injuries on the 40. Like, I'm just looking at the 49ers injury report right now. It's almost like 2 pages long.
Yeah.
When you look at, Kiko Alonso, who they just acquired from the Saints, he's on the injured reserve list already.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the game.
Kevin Coleman, Debo is out. Richard Sherman's out. Who's playing?
I agree with that 100%. I just think that maybe the Saints have a letdown after playing a game against Tampa. Maybe they take the 49ers a little lightly. There's a lot of maybes I'm saying here, Anthony. But I think, again, I think the Saints defense would have to they would have to get pressure on Drew Brees in his face. They would have to put a lot of pressure on him, stop that running game, and maybe Anthony, maybe they have a shot at beating them. So.
Yeah, I like the Saints to cover. I just, if the Saints are a legit contender, and they seem to be a legit contender every year, they just don't get past the divisional round.
Right.
They should steamroll to San Francisco. If they don't, then maybe they're not.
Their window's closed as far as taking the ultimate step. That's the thing. The game that intrigues me the most today is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Carolina Panthers. It intrigues me 2 ways. How's Tampa Bay going to respond after such a brutal loss against New Orleans? And Tom Brady reportedly is complaining about the offensive scheme. He's a little unhappy. And also, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were delayed 7 hours on their flight to get to Carolina. And to us, it just sounds like, it's only 7 hours. But that messes up a whole day. And could that make the difference in a close game?
The last time these two teams played in week 2, Tampa Bay, they had their way with Carolina. That was more or less a blowout win, and that was only Brady's second game in the system. Talent to talent, Tampa Bay has probably the biggest, biggest advantage over most teams in the league, especially Carolina. There's no Christian McCaffrey, and that takes that whole dynamic out of the offense. And maybe if Christian McCaffrey was playing, I would give him a chance. Look at last week. McCaffrey plays one game, has a monster game, and they were within a field goal of beating the Kansas City Chiefs. That's how good this team could be with McCaffrey. Without McCaffrey, you just don't defend them the same way. And they know, Tampa Bay knows Carolina very well, and they should handle this game, even with the delay, even with everything going on. Sheer talent-wise, you go out and win this football game.
Yeah, I agree. I do like the way Carolina's played this year. That they do fight, and they do give teams a lot of trouble. Jack gave you an extra game, so I want to get my last one in here with you, Anthony. And again, this is not for the division for a playoff spot. Maybe so down the road. The Vikings and the Bears. Again, the Vikings seem to be turning on the switch, running the ball, playing a little bit better. The Bears seem to be falling under Foles. I think it's interesting because I think the Bears have got to make the move back to Trubisky. I think the Vikings have got to again keep the ground game going against the Bears. One of the best defenses in the league. It's going to be tough, but I think it's going to be an interesting game. It may have playoff implications down the road, Anthony.
I think it'll definitely have playoff implications. And I'm with you on Mitchell Trubisky. I would have made the move 2 weeks ago, but Trubisky's been hurt.
Yeah.
I think the game, when Trubisky's active, and I think he will be in by halftime.
I think what's revealing is Matt Nagy, the head coach of the Chicago Bears, who loved calling the plays. That's his thing. He's giving it up. Okay. He's no longer going to do the play calling. He's going to defer to his offensive coordinator. So let's see how that works.
Well, guys, in that, Jason Garrett did that too, and he was out of a job like in the next year. So maybe that's signs of things to come over there. So
Dallas, anyone would be out of a job.
They need to, Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, even the general manager, the quarterback situation. Like if you're a member of the Bears defense, look what they did 3 years ago. They made that great run, 11-12 wins, won the division, and that defense looked like the Bears of '85 came back to life. And then the next year, when an offense can't give you anything every game, and your defense is holding the other team to 13 points, and you're still losing games, this is the result.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. Yeah. So that was we had the 4-game breakdown with Anthony. You got some extra today, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Anthony Cervino with Fantasy Football Faceoff. Check out his site. I'm telling you, folks, it's excellent. They do a great job over there, and we're happy to have him on every Saturday. Enjoy Sunday's games, Anthony, and hopefully we have a big win by the 49ers today.
Thanks, Anthony.
Have a good day, guys. Good luck.
All right, my friend. Have a great one. So there you go.
Are we capped, Mac, at giving Anthony 3 games? I didn't know.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Game. I mean,
we're not.
You didn't let me know these things.
We're not capped, Jack. I do send Anthony a quick reference of what games we're going to cover so that he can be prepared. We don't just throw things at him, but I'm glad you did that. It was very interesting and very exciting. Again, you're making the show more exciting every day, Jack.
Well, I don't know about that. Well,
yes, you are, my friend.
No comment.
No, honestly, Jack.
I'm commenting on your sarcasm, man.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, Lord. So, guess what? We had Robert. He's clicked in early backstage, so we can go ahead and get him on before we take our commercial. I don't want to make him wait too much longer because he's a busy man, Jack. This man, not only does he host Sports Skope, but he works in the medical profession. And I guarantee you with this rise in COVID, he's probably putting in a lot of hours and everything. So here we got coming up Robert Butler from the sports broadcast, his podcast, Sports Skope. Guys, go over and check it out. It's very interesting. Robert's very good at what he does. So let's bring him up right now.
Hey, morning, guys. Yeah, Sports Skope with a K.
Yes.
Spell it different so people can find it on Google.
That's definitely. That's why we got that banner up for you, my friend. So when they're
Appreciate that.
So Robert, you were backstage. You heard some with Anthony, who does a great job as far as breaking down games, and one of the best we have experts out there in the field. So why bring you on? Because I love your views on things. I love your thought that goes into it. And me and Jack, and I think it was Keith Engel, we were talking about Dak Prescott. And they tried to tell me that he was in the bottom 10 of the best quarterbacks in the league. And then I asked them, well, who is better? And they could name Patrick Mahomes. But after that, it kind of stumbled. When you compare him in his prime, say before he got hurt, to the players. Now, I'm talking about in today's game. I'm not talking about players that in the past. I'm not, Tom Brady versus Dak Prescott before he got hurt. Drew Brees versus Dak Prescott before he got hurt. I really don't think he's in the bottom 10. He was in the top 3 in a lot of statistics. And even though, and I'm gonna be honest with people at home right here, I despise the Dallas Cowboys because I was raised a Giant fan, and in the 70s they just destroyed us every game they played us. I have a deep hatred for the Cowboys, but I do love football. I do love and I do respect good football when I see it. So when you talk about Dak Prescott, Robert, where do you think he rates in today's game against the quarterbacks in the league?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I know this is probably going to throw you off, but he really reminds me of another 4th-round pick, and that is Kirk Cousins. I was looking at their stats, both of their best years. Kirk Cousins had 26 touchdowns, 6 picks, quarterback rating 107. That was last year. Low interception to touchdown radius. Very similar numbers, 23-4. That was Dak Prescott's rookie year. What do they have in common? Both of them had an excellent running game. Both of them had multiple receivers they can throw to. Both of them had a above-average defense. Remember, Prescott lost that shootout that year to Aaron Rodgers, red hot that year. You look at Kirk Cousins, same thing. I'm looking at these young quarterbacks that are coming into the league. Tua looked good last week. Joe Burrow, I would probably take Joe Burrow. He's throwing back shoulder passes, guys. I think he's going to play pretty well today in the windy Pittsburgh stadium. And you look at not just Tua, Burrow. Who's the other? Justin Herbert. Kyler Murray had 106 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, so look at these teams that are getting to the Super Bowl with their quarterbacks on a rookie contract. Philadelphia, Carson Wentz, he got hurt late in that season, 2017, week 14, something like that. They got to the Super Bowl, won it. Who was the other? Jared Goff, rookie contract with the Rams, got the Super Bowl, almost won that Super Bowl. There was one more. Oh, we have Patrick Mahomes still on his rookie contract. More and more quarterbacks are coming into the league.
He signed for $500 million.
Huh?
He signed for $500 million.
Well, yeah, but he was making at the time. So my thing is, if I'm Dallas, Mac Jones, NFL scouts are saying he's coming up in the quarterback rankings. Who's that other guy? Cal Trask, ironically, Dan Mullen, who coached Dak Prescott, he's supposed to be a first-round pick now. That's the guy from Florida. The San Diego State, Trey Lance. You're talking 5 quarterbacks, Justin Fields, and, of course, Trevor Lawrence. We talked about him last week. If you could get one of these guys, if I'm Dallas, maybe trade away one of those extra wide receivers. They're getting a little old on the offensive line. As far as Dak Prescott, I see him maybe fitting in with a rival, possibly a Washington team. Got a young defense. All those guys are on rookie contract. Chase Young pushing it, defensive rookie of the year. Maybe Ron Rivera, bring him in, something like that. Pay him $30 million a year. They've got young running backs, a fair offensive line, a fair defensive line. But, yeah, as far – he's very close to Kirk Cousins. I think he's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. I think Kirk Cousins is a great guy. But I think that we've seen what they can do. They both hit their ceiling. You have to have almost everything running perfect for these guys to be successful.
But my point I was trying to make to Mac was this. The young quarterbacks who you mentioned, Burrow, Tua, Justin Herbert, they're going to be passing Zach Prescott in the next year or so. So if Zach Prescott is ahead of them now, it's just a temporary thing. Kyler Murray, he's going to be passing Zach Prescott very shortly as well. So you have a whole wave of these young quarterbacks who are coming up, who are going to be elite quarterbacks very shortly. They've already shown they can get it done. The potential's there. And they just need experience. They're going to be getting better and better and better. A guy like Burrow, he shouldn't even be playing this year with Cincinnati's offensive line, but nevertheless, they're playing him. And in the long run, he's probably going to be better for it.
Well, there's 2 things there. First of all, Kirk Cousins might have the same numbers, but they're 2 different quarterbacks, Robert. You have a Dak Prescott who can run and break it anytime. They've got to respect how he scrambles, how he runs with the ball, and where you're not worried about that too much with the Vikings quarterback there.
Kirk Cousins, yeah.
Right. You don't worry about that. His play actions, his running game's got to be working for him to be successful with play actions, where Dak can do it without the play action. And Jack brings up these young quarterbacks. This takes half the season. We're already saying they'll be better than Dak Prescott, who's been in the league for 4 years now, and every year of those 4 years has had unbelievable stats. So you named all these people, and can you tell me if right now, if you had Drew Brees, as great a game as he just had, and you had Dak Prescott, you would take right now, before Dak Prescott got hurt, you would take Drew Brees to be your quarterback this year?
Well, I mean, Drew Brees has won multiple playoff games in this league. Dak won 1 playoff game.
And this year, Robert.
Well, that is a good question, because Brees seems to fall apart towards the end of the seasons. I think Tampa still got a chance to win that division because Brees can't get the ball downfield. If you want to play a hypothetical, yeah, possibly because of the youth issue with Dak versus a Brees, because I've seen Brees fall apart. They got to get that 1 seed for me to pick them to go to the Super Bowl because of his age. I've watched him the last 2 years. He can't spread the ball. He can't get it down the field. Even the year that they got put out by the Rams, Philadelphia came back and they almost beat them in their first game 2 years ago after the bye week. So yeah, I would probably take Dak over Breeze.
So let me give you two more, Jack.
I could name 5 right now.
Wait, 2 more because I know Mahomes and Rodgers. I would take them easily over Dak Prescott. Okay, so Tom Brady right now and Dak Prescott before he got hurt. Who you taking this year?
Well, I would probably take Tom Brady still. I'm sorry. It's just me. I know Brady stays in elite shape. He plays better in bigger games. Dak's lost some playoff games. He's only won 1 playoff game.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Rob, listen, this is one for you, and this is one for Mac. Matthew Stafford, Zach Prescott right now. Matthew Stafford, because he's played for the pathetic Detroit Lions and never gets any recognition because they never win. I mean, you put him one-on-one with Zach Prescott. Most GMs, take the Jacksonville Jaguars, for example. If they could have one guy quarterback for them for 1 season, right now, I think they'd go with Matthew Stafford.
I think it's close, Jack. I definitely think it's close. And maybe Stafford does get the edge. The only thing I worry about Matt Stafford with is he's primarily a pocket quarterback and he gets injured. As you saw over the last couple of years, he's been getting injured. But as far as throwing the ball, he's an unbelievable quarterback. I just like Dak's potential for the run and his potential for big plays.
Mac, we're picking him as a top 10 quarterback in the league. We're not insulting him. That's Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Matthew Stafford. Those are 5 right now.
Okay. Okay.
Then Roethlisberger, I would take Roethlisberger, even at his old age.
Really? I don't know about that, guys. But anyway, it's always fun about Dak Prescott. Very high profile and really an exciting quarterback, whether he's in the top 10 or the top 5. Okay, so I want to get to Tampa Bay real quick with you, Robert. They go ahead, and they get Antonio Brown and they play him right away. And Tampa Bay already has 5 players on the team that can make plays. I mean, you got 2 great wide receivers, you got 2 great tight ends, you got a really good running back, and you got a fairly good offensive line, at least a solid offensive line. Do you think it's ever maybe too much talent on a team? You got 5 people that can't handle the ball. That's it. 6 people can handle the ball. There's only 1 football. So when you bring in somebody that's talented like this, and I can see it if you don't have a very talented team, you want that one talented guy maybe to put you over the top. But when you already have a talented offense, an offense that can score from anywhere, as they showed without Antonio Brown, and you bring in this guy who, in his prime, the best receiver in football, no doubt, no question. But now you're bringing him in, and then you're asking the other 6 players that handle the ball, 5 not counting the quarterback, to either not make plays or to let him make plays, or Tom Brady's going to try to make him happy by getting him the ball. Do you think there's ever any thought to maybe there's too much talent on the team?
Well, long term, that would be an issue. You know how these receivers have these massive egos. Everybody wants the ball. We talked about this the other day. Stephon Diggs arguing about getting the ball last year with Minnesota when they're up in the game. But this is a short-term thing. It could become an issue. It looks like they were trying to force it the other day to him in the Saints game. However, Brady trusts him. He has the leadership skills. I think it's going to be okay just for this year. This whole thing could fall apart past this year between Brady and this culture that Bruce Arians has. Brady's very structured, wants everything a certain way. I think he should leave after this year. I mean, he's got nothing else to prove. I still think this team can make a run. I think they play really well today.
Well, Brady enjoys playing football. That's his thing. He loves playing the game.
Yeah.
He's not playing for legacy. He's playing for love of game. But you make a good point, Robert. I've never seen a team in a win now mode the way the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are. And a couple of years from now, they're not going to be the same team. I mean, there's a good chance they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. So they're basically putting all their marbles in Tom Brady's basket to win right now. I mean, their window doesn't go beyond next year with all the different pieces they brought in. And is chemistry really that important in football? You know, it's very important in a sport like basketball, but in football, as long as everyone does their job and as long as the receivers are in sync with the quarterback, you kind of wonder, is chemistry really that important in the sport of football?
Right. Plus, these guys are under contract. Mike Evans got a big deal. I want to say Godwin's under contract. It's not like an issue where they're in a contract year. They need a certain amount of numbers and everything. Gronk's playing because he just wants to play. Brady's playing. Leonard Fournette wants a ring. He was a high draft pick. You know, you've got a lot of people working for this. I mean, Antonio Brown himself, he's a, $100 million, $100 million contract from back in the Pittsburgh days.
Yeah.
So everybody's working towards the same cause here. I still say they got a shot to win this division.
Why did Antonio Brown guys try to get out of Oakland? I mean, Oakland, Las Vegas, the Raiders, force of habit. He had a big contract there. And it was like he was trying to force a trade elsewhere by just being a total prima donna. Yeah. And it kind of backfired on him. He would have been best off just staying in Oakland, where he would have been an impact player there, have made a lot more money, obviously, than he's making now. You sometimes just don't understand the logic of these guys, and they wind up outsmarting themselves.
Yeah, I think once he got to with the Raiders, it dawned on him how good he had it. Carr's a pretty good quarterback. He's not Ben Roethlisberger, the first ballot Hall of Famer type of guy. And then he had an awful agent, Drew Rosenhaus, a guy who has been known to deal with prima donna receivers and gas them up to do ridiculous things to get traded for teams. He was T.O.'s agent. You guys know.
Very true. I heard something, and I want to get your opinion on this. Yeah. There was a head referee, a prior head referee, who still has contacts within the NFL and the referees union and all that good stuff. And he said on television, national television, that the refs are told what penalties to call that's more significant, and others to be like not call them, not pay attention to them. And to me, I mean, I can understand in certain circumstances where you don't want to slow down the game and you want to put a higher priority, but to actually tell the referees what penalties to call and what not to pay attention to, isn't that the refs affecting the game?
Right. Yeah. I did read a story about that at the beginning of the season due to COVID. There was someone to stop calling less holding calls. You guys know the old adage, you can call holding on every play. I think holding, long as it's not clipping or tripping or grabbing somebody in the face mask, something flagrant. I like the flow of the game. And, as far as I do think the helmet to helmet, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that needs to be adjusted. Yeah. There was a bad call. I want to say Ray Lewis pointed out one, but there was one on a quarterback that looked textbook. Yeah. And it got called helmet to helmet. I think they need to adjust that. I understand the COVID issues, lack of preseason, everything, but I got a feeling they're going to go back to it. But yeah, I don't want to see them calling holding on every play or pass interference, stuff like that. But blatant, I kind of like it with less calls as long as it's not Bush League, Yeah. It keeps the flow of the game going.
I do agree with that. I definitely agree with that. But, when you see then it comes all down to, your perspective. When you see somebody get called for pass interference that barely touches them or just barely grabs them, and then you see another one where the guy almost runs them over and they don't call it. So, I mean, I know they're all human beings, and I know that, it's all from their perspective. I just don't like the idea of the refs being told what penalties to call or whatnot. That's all I would say.
Yeah.
One more topic for you. The Tennessee Titans are a very very interesting to me. Last year, they go to the championship. They look like world beaters. They run all over the Patriots. They're ahead, of the Chiefs. They could have won that game. Of course, couldas and wouldas don't matter, but they were in position to win that game. And now it just looks like they're falling off. Their defense, especially out of the spread formation, they're running all over Tennessee, which had a real good defense last year. They just seem off. Do you think this year is going to be maybe a huge step back? Especially after they lost to the Colts the way they did. Do you think they step big this year?
Well, they got a new kicker or punter last week, and we saw they had a block punt. He had like a 19-yard punt the other day. They should not have said, and I talked about this on my show, the old adage is, well, they got rid of this player a year early, which is usually good. They got rid of Jarrell Casey 2 years early. He's a good defensive tackle. Their run defense is nowhere near what it was last year. Yeah. However, this year they're trying to adapt to life without Taylor Lewan, their left tackle. Ryan Tannehill's getting rid of the ball a little bit quicker, a little gun shy. He's not quite trustworthy of that other left tackle that's filling in. But I do think that they still have a shot. They picked up Desmond King in the trade. Turned out to be a still 6th-round pick from the Chargers, a former All-Pro. He wasn't fitting in the new system in L.A. They looked really good against the Bears. I mean, that's not saying much, but for Tennessee, they had them shut out for 3 quarters, played really well. Jadeveon Clowney's still playing himself into shape. I still say they got a shot. I know Rivers and the Colts look good. The Colts have really good defense. They're first in yards or second to first in the league in points allowed. However, they got a rough schedule down the stretch. They got to play at Pittsburgh. They got to play at the Raiders. Talking about the Colts, Tennessee still has a shot. I actually see them rebounding next week with extra time in the short week against Baltimore and getting things together. They're not as tight as they were, but with the weather changing, they're going to lean on that Derrick Henry running game a little bit more. They still have some pass rushers. Clowney getting in shape. They still have a chance. They just got a few things they need to tie up, loose ends, like the punter issue and possibly a kicker issue. We've had issues here in Tennessee with the Gostkowski, the former Patriot kicker, has come back from a season-ending injury. He's still not quite 100%, but if it was me, I'd maybe want to bring in another kicker and another punter. They've got some time to do that. So they're still right in the thick of things. I got a feeling they're going to edge out the Colts in a tight divisional race and make a run. But I still like Kansas City and Pittsburgh as 2 better teams in this conference, particularly Kansas City. They can beat Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh, they got holes in their defensive secondary too. They take too many gambles.
Clowney has been an enigma. I mean, coming out of college, putting him on the other side of J.J. Watt, he should still be with Houston if in reality, but didn't work out that way. Sometimes he looks like he's the greatest player who ever lived, and other times he looks like he shouldn't even be in the NFL. I mean, talk about inconsistent greatness. That's Clowney.
Yeah, he's a guy. He's a mail-it-in guy. He's a guy that's got the talent. The bigger the game, the more he played. He played really well in the playoffs with Houston last few years. But, yeah, I do agree with Clowney. I wouldn't sign him to no big contract. No.
Well,
they didn't sign him.
You don't know which
I think they gave him like $13 million, which is a steal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the guy's always injured. Sometimes, like Jack says, he doesn't even seem interested. Listen, there were a lot of expectations on him, especially after that video of that hit he made in college was played over and over and over again. And nobody blocked him. I think me and you, Jack, and maybe even Robert could have probably laid a lick on that running back.
He's a better version of Brian Bosworth.
That's a great assembly. So
I'm sure Derrick Henry's ran him over in practice a few times.
Oh, wow.
So Bo Jackson flashback there.
There you go. So Robert, again, we have Robert Butler, the host of Sports Skope. He has a great show out there. Check him out. He talks about all sports, not just football, but he has a lot of information, a lot of different views, and I do watch it when I get a chance. So everybody go over to Sports Skope, check him out. And again, he comes in every Sunday with us around 9 o'clock. And Robert, thanks again for coming in and giving us some.
All right, guys, enjoy the games. A lot of big games tonight.
Good games.
Definitely. Take care, Rob. You got it.
Pleasure, Rob.
So there you go, Robert. Robert Butler with Sports Skope joins us again. Jack, we're overdue for a little break here, so we'll go ahead and we'll get a few minutes of commercials in. We'll be back, and me and Jack will be doing what we're getting paid for after the commercials, and that's breaking down the NFL games, especially the locals. So we'll, after this commercial here, we will be right back, and we'll be doing that for you.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211-INFO line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma.
I love you too. Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle's some other kids I caught drinking here in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. He's no power ups. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
some fruit snacks, Mac.
Oh, go right ahead, Jack. How you doing, everybody, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. We're here to cover all your local Northeast professional sports programs. We cover them all, football, baseball, hockey, basketball. And we try to, get in depth on the Northeast corridor, even though we do cover all the NFL. And we're going to get to our football picks right after this quick message. If you want to get the clothing of your favorite teams, jerseys, hats, all gear, we have the place for you. That's Fanatics. Just go to the macandjacksports.com website called Max Sports Insiders and click on their link. It brings you right to their store just in time for Christmas. Order for your special someone's birthday, or just treat yourself to your favorite team's clothing and gear. That's macandjacksports.com. The website name is Max Sports Insider. Click on the Fanatics link for all your team's clothing and gear. So, Jack, we have our football show. We have a couple guests. We had Anthony Cervino and from Fantasy Football Faceoff, Robert Butler from Sports Skope. And now we're going to do our thing. We're going to go ahead and pick the games, and we'll save the locals for the last to go more in depth with them. We've got the Texas playing the Broncos. Listen, I think the Texans, Houston Texans are an up and down team. They can win by a lot against the easier teams, but against the bigger teams, the better teams, they have a problem. The Broncos are up and coming. They got that, young quarterback that's playing really good. The Broncos defense is playing better. Who do you like in that game, Jack?
Well, Nick Chubb is back to run the ball for the Browns. Kareem Hunt was their primary running back in his place, and Kareem Hunt really wasn't that effective, but combining with Nick Chubb, they're going to have a really good running game, and of course with Jarvis Landry there. I mean, I kind of like Cleveland in that game. Houston is a mess, the whole franchise, by letting go of their PR director, who was a woman, and now J.J. Watt is questioning their move. There's a lot of turmoil within that organization, and I don't like to say that players give up, but Houston is at 2-6. They know they're not making the playoffs, and it gets to a point where the players just don't care as much as they should, and I think Houston has really gotten to that point. So I definitely like Cleveland in that game.
And thanks for the save on that, because it is the Browns. I can't read my I'm having a problem reading some writing there. So, the Browns, they do have Chubb back. They do have a great running game. I'll tell you right now, though, Jack, if it comes down, to quarterback issues, I definitely would give the Texans quarterback a little bit of an edge.
A lot of an edge. I love Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's conceivably a top 5 quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah.
And with Baker Mayfield, I mean, he's going to be he's quarterback in Cleveland in the foreseeable future through next year at least. Cleveland's not going to draft a trade for quarterback. I mean, Baker Mayfield has shown you enough to stick with them. And Cleveland's 5-3. Let's see where they finish the year. If they go 10-6, even if they get bumped in the first game of the playoffs, then at least they're moving in a positive direction finally.
That's true. For that organization, that would definitely be a big event because they haven't been there in so long. So you got the Jaguars at the Packers. The Packers are favored by a lot for good reasons. The Jaguars, they're trying. I mean, it's not like they're not playing. They're playing tough. But I don't think that they could stand up to the Packers team. I think Packers are just a good.
Well, you want to hear something funny? Mercedes Lewis, the tight end of the Green Bay Packers, he was a former Jacksonville Jaguar. He learned that he got traded by watching ESPN.
Wow.
Okay. Talk about that. Imagine, Mac, I'm learning that you're replacing me by just happening to tune into another talk show. I mean, come on. So Aaron Rodgers, he's a little ticked off about that, Aaron Rodgers, I hear. he wants to throw a TD past the Mercedes Lewis during this game to kind of stick it to Jacksonville, which isn't going to be a hard thing to do. I look for the Packers to absolutely roll over the Jaguars. I mean, you're talking about a 37-7 game, something along those lines.
I think you're right. I think the Packers handle the Jaguars easy. We got Washington at the Lions, and believe it or not, the Lions are favored. After last week's performance by Alex Smith, Washington's defense is tough. You got Matt Stafford and the Lions there who can at times look like they can beat almost anybody. I'm going to go with Washington. I think that they can beat the Lions. Their defense, again, is very strong. And Alex Smith, if not for the interceptions, he carved up the Giants' defense in the second half. It was scary there for the Giants.
Wow. There's another storyline that I didn't even think about till this second, Mac. Not that it's so big. Adrian Peterson wasn't a Redskin throughout his career, but he was basically let go by the Redskins and wound up with Detroit. And Adrian Peterson now, I mean, he's playing his old team, his last team, so that's going to be motivation there. Washington and Detroit, it's an anyone can win game. I kind of feel Detroit is going to get it done. Close game, but basically a toss-up for the most part.
We talked about, Anthony, the Buccaneers and Panthers. There's something to me with the Buccaneers where there's something going on where maybe it's between the head coach and the offensive coordinator and Tom Brady, or maybe it's just like a team that's supposed to be real good and maybe they're not. I know the Panthers are definitely the underdog. They're underdogs by about a touchdown. They're at Carolina. Man, I hate to say this, and I know you rib me for it. Yeah. I can see the Panthers upsetting the Buccaneers.
I can see it too. This, in a way, you could say is deja vu. Remember opening game for the Buccaneers this year? I mean, they lost in New Orleans and didn't look good doing it, and people were questioning the Buccaneers, what type of year they were going to have. Did Brady have anything in the tank? And then they bounced back the next week against Carolina. Then they went on a bit of a roll for most of the rest of the season until they ran into New Orleans last week. And it was a dreadful loss against New Orleans. You could look at it two ways. You could look at it that it was a bit of an aberration and that the Buccaneer resolve is going to be so great that they're going to destroy the Panthers.
Right.
Or you could look at it that maybe the Buccaneers in turmoil, or they're not as good as we think they are. And especially they had a 7-hour delay getting into Carolina. Yeah. It might not sound like much. It might not mean that much if these were baseball players. But for football, every guy has a routine. They had team meetings at the airport.
Yeah.
They split up at the airport to have team meetings. How unsettling is that? Players can't concentrate under that environment. But with that said, as tempting as it is to pick the Panthers, I got to believe talent, prevails. Yeah. Once in a while, talent can override any other factor. And with Christian McCaffrey out for the Panthers, it's hard to quite envision them beating the Buccaneers. It can happen, and I wouldn't be shocked if it happened, but I'll go with the Buccaneers.
The Broncos are at the Raiders.
Are we on the timeout now? That means is that the let you say more. I mean, is that for me? Is that a message?
I'm always in a timeout. I get put there a lot, Jack. So I live with it.
Timeout. When we talk, it's timeout. When the guests come on, that means the game.
Very true.
We're like the cheerleaders or the entertainment, Yeah,
that's
we warm up the audience for the guests.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. So I mentioned the Broncos instead of the Browns the first game, but the Broncos are playing the Raiders. This debate, this rivalry goes way back, Jack. They've always played each other tough. The Raiders seem to have the better overall team, but the Broncos, again, their young quarterback, looks good. The Broncos defense is getting better. The Raiders are at home. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but I don't know, Jack. I'm gonna stay on the Raiders bandwagon right now. I think they're playing really good, solid football.
Well, they're 5-3, and they had that thrilling last-second win over the Chargers last week. So, if you believe in momentum, the Raiders certainly have it. They're on a high. It's pretty simple. The Raiders are 5-3. They're playing a Bronco team that's 3-5, but it's no gimme. If the Raiders are going to make the playoffs, these are the games they have to win. They can't let games like this get away and make the playoffs and then expect to beat the much better teams.
I agree.
I got to feel for all the potential you hear about, Drew Lock going to Jerry Jeudy and the Bronco defense being better than people say it, better than their record indicates. You got to figure the Raiders get it done in this spot.
I definitely agree with that, Jack. So we got this isn't a big game, and I'm surprised that the Dolphins aren't favored by more. But the Dolphins go up against the Chargers. The Chargers, again, exciting young quarterback. There's a few of them out there in the league, Jack. The Dolphins look like just a good team, defensively, offensively. Tua played really well against the Cardinals. I like the Dolphins, Jack. I think that they put away the Chargers by at least a touchdown, and so I'm going to go with the Dolphins on this pick, Jack.
I'm going to tell you, for years they would talk about the quarterback rivalry, Brady and Manning. To me, quarterbacks never have a direct rivalry because a quarterback's playing against the other team's defense,
right,
and indirectly against the other team's coach, but not against the other quarterback. But my prediction is, this is going to kick off what's going to be a debate for years and years. Who's better, Herbert or Tua?
Yeah.
Because the two rookies, they're the way for the future in the NFL. And the Chargers, they always find a way to lose.
Yeah.
They always find a way to lose. Okay? And the Dolphins have flat out been good this year. We look at the Dolphins 5-3, and we look at them as a young up-and-coming team. But maybe they're here. Maybe they're not up-and-coming anymore. Maybe the Dolphins have arrived. They've taken the express elevator to the top.
Yeah.
In a blink of an eye over a few weeks. The Dolphins have maybe peaked to the point where they're just really, really good and they're a legitimate Super Bowl threat. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins over the Chargers. The Chargers just haven't shown any ability to close games. Maybe this is the week they finally show it, but I don't think so.
I agree with it. And a lot of that has to do, I think, starting last year with the Dolphins, Jack, when they were saying tank for Tua, and these guys started fighting harder. Maybe that inspired them, and they had a heck of a second half of the season. And then it just seemed to carry over. I think Fitzpatrick being taken out of the starting quarterback position, let the young kid play because, you knew what you had with Fitzpatrick. He could really perform really well in some games. In some games, it didn't look like he was an NFL quarterback. So, loved Fitzpatrick. I love the amount of a team member he is. He's got a great personality. He's a good leader when on the field. But that Tua, I don't know, Jack. He was very accurate in college. Unless something happens where he gets hurt or something that we don't look at, I think he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league in the next few years.
Oh, absolutely. It's happened before. You know who your franchise quarterback's going to be. Look, Kurt Warner was playing well for the Giants.
Yeah.
But Eli Manning was their top draft choice, the number one overall choice in the draft. So you knew it was a matter of time before Eli Manning would take the position over. And that's from a guy who people felt was going to be a Hall of Famer, and Kurt Warner.
And he is.
Alex Smith was playing well, but Jim Harbaugh with the 49ers thought Colin Kaepernick had more upside. So he replaced Alex Smith during the season as the Giants replaced Kurt Warner during the season. Alex Smith played well as the quarterback for the Chiefs. but you knew they drafted Patrick Mahomes to take his place.
Sure,
Okay?
sure.
And Ryan Fitzpatrick, I mean, you could win with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and teams have, but everyone had to know it was a matter time for Tua. And people could say it's the timing. Getting back to the Chargers, Anthony Lynn was planning on starting Tyrod Taylor
Yeah.
and saying that Tyrod Taylor could even be our quarterback next year. You don't draft another quarterback, number 6 overall in the draft, with the idea, you know, he's not going to be your franchise guy going forward.
And to
you know, it
piggyback,
wouldn't make sense otherwise to draft him.
and to
that high.
piggyback on what you said, I remember when they took the keys away from Warner and gave him to Eli, and they said, "Listen,
Yeah.
if Eli has problems, we're going to call you back in." And Warner said, "No, he is now the starting quarterback. I am now the second string quarterback, and that's the way it is." And you know, again, not only you can't compare Fitzpatrick to Warner because Warner is twice the quarterback Fitzpatrick was, but the same kind of attitude, Jack, where no, Eli is now the starting quarterback. I'm not going to go back in if Eli has bad games.
Well, let me tell you an interesting thing with the Jets. When Vinny Testaverde was their starting quarterback, the Jets had 4 number 1 draft picks that year. So they go number 12, number 13. They take Abraham, Sean Ellis. And then at number 18, they don't need a quarterback, but sitting there's Chad Pennington.
Right.
Chad Pennington. So they take him because he was clearly the best available. And how do you turn down, they felt a talent like that? Ultimately, he replaced Vinny Testaverde.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And what happens, Chad Pennington, after replacing him, he played really well. Chad Pennington gets hurt. So Vinny Testaverde has to come in there to take Chad Pennington's place. And Chad Pennington says, well, if Vinny's playing well when I come off the injured list, I expect to be on the bench because Vinny sat for me and I should then sit for him. It's only fair. Talk about a great attitude. Like, wow, awesome.
Right. I mean, putting a team before yourself it's pretty cool. So we got we talked about this with Anthony too. We got the Seahawks going up against the Rams. You know, Jack, I have a feeling, I don't know why, and Anthony told us, you know, that the Rams quarterback has great games against the Seattle Seahawks. I really think that Seattle is not going to win this game. I think the Rams are going to win this. I think Seattle's defense will give up too many points, and I think it might be a shootout. But that Rams defense, nobody talks about it. The Rams defense overall, not just their defensive line, but overall they have a real good defense and they have a solid running game. So I really like the Rams in this game. I think they beat the Seahawks.
And they got good receivers like Robert Woods in there. But the thing is, I mean, the Rams were my pick to go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
They still are. You know, but that NFC is really wide open when you think of all the good teams there. And I mean, with Seattle, they protected so great for Russell Wilson this year, and they haven't been given the credit that they deserve for that. I mean, we hear about Russell Wilson's ability as a playmaker.
Sure.
I use that term as well, but sometimes you hate that because it takes away credit from the rest of the guys. I mean, that Russell Wilson could make, you know, something out of nothing, but they really protected well for him this year. Last year was one of the worst. I mean, last week was one of the worst games of Russell Wilson's career with the 4 turnovers. And this is the first time in a while that Russell Wilson is facing some adversity. He's actually a little under the microscope. People want to see how he responds this week. And he's going to have to do it against a really, you know, good defense anchored by the great, you know, Aaron Donald.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens, Jack. I like the Rams in this one. I think it'll be
so
close.
Do I.
We have of course, the 49ers and Saints. Listen, I know that the Saints on paper right now, player for player, are a better team. It takes a game like this for a team like the 49ers to not make a statement, but to hold on. I think this game is way more important to the 49ers than the Saints. I think their defense is still one of the best in the league. The offense, they lost a lot of people, but I've seen them play well with their subs too. I want to go with the 49ers. I think the Saints are going to win, Jack, but I'm kind of hoping for an upset here.
I think the 49ers basically are cooked. They're at 4-5. If they spring an upset, they're 5-5. They've had all these injuries. Sometimes a team, and I'm not saying this is their attitude, this is talking from the outside, it's just not their year. It doesn't mean they don't have the talent. It doesn't mean they're not a good team. It doesn't mean they're not a legitimate championship contender. Just not this year. With all the injuries, everything has basically gone wrong with the 49ers. But they're the type of team that come next year, they'll be right back in the thick of things. But this year, I mean, it all started with the quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. Just the idea that there would be serious talk whether he should be their quarterback of the future, that doesn't bode well for the franchise, not at all. And this is a guy who came so close to being the Super Bowl MVP last year.
Yeah, one pass.
Held on to that lead. Imagine the defense held on to that lead and Jimmy Garoppolo's Super Bowl MVP. Would we be even doubting him in the slightest?
Well, a lot of people still, doubted Flacco after winning the MVP. They thought he had a great
Flacco
year.
was there for years.
Yeah, it's very true.
Years.
Very true. Very true.
Flacco was only ultimately replaced when they had Lamar Jackson. You know, they had that other great option who could give the team a spark.
Well,
but Flacco showed a little life against the
Patriots.
Patriots in his last game.
Yeah,
he had a little zip left. He's no threat to take the job away from Sam Darnold.
Not at all.
But he showed he could be a capable backup quarterback in the league.
Right. Before we get to the locals, we got one more game, Jack. We got the Vikings at the Bears. I know Trubisky is hurt. I know that's probably – I hope that's the only reason why he's not playing. Foles is a starting quarterback. Is not a good starting quarterback. He's a great backup. He can come in and carry you even to the Super Bowl as he did with the Eagles against the Patriots. He was in a certain system. He knew the system well, and he played very well for those few games or almost half the season. What it came in like in week 12. So maybe the last quarter of the season, into the playoffs, into the Super Bowl. The Eagles team was just a real good team. And he played very well for him. But as a starting quarterback, Jack, going in and being a starting quarterback for almost the whole year, his record is not that good. The Vikings look to be improving. They look to keep getting back to the ground and pound game that they're known for. Their defense is playing a little better. The Bears have got to win this game to stay, relevant and maybe in a playoff push. And the Vikings, to have any kind of playoff push for their own, have got to beat the Bears. So I think it's a must-win. I'm going with the Vikings, Jack.
I'm going with the Vikings, too. The problem with the Vikings, I don't want to say you run out of time, but you run out of games in the NFL. Vikings are a really good team, and that's hard to say when the team is 3-5. They're in a spot where the margin of error is very, very slim. Basically, they've got to win 7 of their last 8 games to make the playoffs. The Vikings are good enough to do it moving forward, but that's a tough mountain to climb no matter who you are. This game centers around the storyline, centers around the Chicago Bears with their quarterback controversy. But like I mentioned earlier, Matt Nagy, the head coach of the Chicago Bears, he's giving up play calling responsibilities for the first time.
Right.
First time. So maybe he's been the problem to an extent.
Well,
talk about Nick Foles. Maybe Nick Foles is going to get to run the offense a lot more the way he likes to do it. Nick Foles isn't the type of guy to criticize the coach publicly.
But Jack, too, again, when head coaches start turning over responsibilities to other coaches is when they kind of are getting on the hot seat, like Garrett did, like Schumer did. I mean, there are
like
coaches.
Nagy is now.
So, I mean, with that team, and, you know, the big behind the scenes problems he's been having with the GM, we know that he didn't really like Trubisky. He really didn't design a series of plays or a strategy around Trubisky's best talents. He wanted to make him a drop back quarterback and not a run threat to run quarterback like he could be. And he did show at times that he could do very well. And Nagy had problems with that, where the GM drafted him, went up and moved up and drafted him. So there was always a tug of war there. And now we'll see maybe if Nagy is in the hot seat. Folks, we're going to take a quick 3-minute timeout here. We'll be back with the locals on the other side of the break. Stick with us as we break down the locals, New York, Boston, and Giant teams. We'll be right back, folks.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on every Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. And you are tuned in for our football show today, folks, where we're going to break down now the local area teams of the Northeast, New York, Boston, and Philadelphia. And, Jack, we got like 10 minutes left, so we ain't got a lot of time, but we got enough to get in depth on these games. So we're going to start off, of course, with the Giants and the Eagles. The Giants won last week. They're a game maybe and a half behind them with that tie the Eagles have. The Eagles have always been a problem for the Giants. It's always been a great rivalry. They won on perhaps the last play of the game with 11 seconds left last game. The Giants are playing very competitive. They have no quitting them. Their defense is playing really well, getting turnovers. The offense running game with the addition of with Smith, who used to play for the Washington Redskins and was a All-Pro. He seems to be in his form as he was an All-Pro. He's really taken the running game to a higher level. And with Gallman there, with the chance of him breaking one at any time, and the passing game seems to be getting a little bit better. It's going to be a tough game, Jack. I'm going to go. I'm going to have to go with the Giants. I think they need it more, and that's the only reason.
I'm going to go with the Giants too. I think the Giants under Joe Judge. How can you not be impressed with the job Joe Judge is doing? And don't point to his record. Someone might say, "Well, the Giants are 2-7, no big deal," but they play hard each week. They could have won a number of those games, and they bought into the coach. Even a veteran like Golden Tate, it's unheard of where coach would put a veteran like that on the practice squad as a disciplinary measure. That's old time stuff. That's old school, Mac.
Yeah.
You love that. That's old school.
They do.
And Golden Tate apologized afterwards.
Yeah.
Golden Tate learned this lesson, which is good. Golden Tate will be better off for it.
Yeah.
Okay? And Golden Tate's wife is going to know not to tweet, not to get a little too carried away.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's good. And Golden Tate even said he enjoyed playing with the practice squad, helping the team get ready. I like that attitude. A little thing the Giants did that surprised me early in the year. The talk was that Corey Ballantyne was a pretty good corner. They released him. I'm not sure whether they re-signed him for the practice squad.
Yeah, I mean,
he struggled a little bit, but the potential was there to be a really good player, in my view.
Yeah, well, Corey Ballantyne's been hurt all the time, and when he was playing, he was getting beat soundly.
Yeah,
I think he was thought of being the next starting cornerback for the Giants at one time, especially after what happened, with the whole incident earlier with our starting cornerback ended up getting arrested. But I think that I heard that McKinney, the safety that they drafted in the 4th round, might be activated. I haven't seen nothing else on it since then. He is a dynamic. He was a dynamic college safety. We'll see if he gets in the game at all, if he is activated. I think the Giants' future is looking really good, Jack. I think they could make a small run here. They got a real tough schedule coming up this second half. But the first thing they got to worry about, as Joe just said, whatever happened in the past happened in the past. This is this week. And if they can beat the Eagles, which I think they can this week, it looks like the Giants will be back, believe it or not, in the race for the
right. And Evan Ingram, all eyes are going to be on him with the drop pass last game. I hate to pinpoint. I hate to pinpoint one play as the reason the team ever loses a game, because so much goes on. Early in the game, it could be something as obscure as a missed block that no one notices that could make a play break down, and that's just as important as a drop pass. But listen, receivers, tight ends, whatever, they get the glory when they catch the ball. So obviously they're going to be a focus when they don't. And it seems to me, at least, that the Giants have been babying even Evan Ingram, trying to get his confidence back in the last game. It's going to be interesting whether they try to use him in a big way this game. I kind of think they will. And this is going to show how much faith they really have in him.
I think
how much they use him in the important spots.
I think they'll at least try to get him involved in the game, as they've been doing the last few games. He had a big drop against Philadelphia where they could have run out the clock.
Massive.
Another big drop. It just I don't know what it is with Ingram. He's got the potential. He's been hurt a lot. He does make drops in key situations. He's been doing that since we got him. But, man, when he makes that catch and breaks an 80-yard touchdown, people go crazy because he's got that kind of athleticism about him. I know they had a lot of offers to trade for Ingram, and they turned them all down. Some really good offers too, Jack. So they do have faith in this kid. So we got the Bills at the Cardinals. Should be a great game, Jack. I mean, you got two running quarterbacks. You got two teams that are on their way up. The Bills have got to keep winning to keep ahead of the Dolphins. The Cardinals have got to keep winning to keep pace with all the teams in the NFC West. So it should be a very interesting game. The Cardinals are favored by a little bit. You know something? I'm going to go with the Bills, Jack. I think the Bills defense steps up a little bit this week. The Cardinals defense is kind of under the radar. They do have a good defense, but for some reason, I like the Bills passing game just a little bit more than the Cardinals passing.
Well, the Bill, cornerback Josh Norman is out with COVID. Certain other players are out with COVID. The Bills' practice schedule got a little, shook up. With this COVID, practices have to change. You don't know how much this affects things. Kyler Murray against Josh Allen. To me, that's going to be the most fun quarterback matchup of the game. Not Justin Herbert and Tua, but Murray and Josh Allen, because they kind of play alike in a way. I mean, they're both very mobile. Kyler Murray obviously is a little more of a running quarterback, but they both can run, both can pass. And the Cardinals, coming off the unexpected loss to the Dolphins last week, we'll see how they rebound. It's a very hard game to actually pick.
I agree.
The Bills at 7-2. I'm gonna go with the Cardinals in this game, reluctantly, to bounce back at home. But Buffalo will still be in good shape if they lose. They'll be at 7-3, so they'll still be, they'll still be there.
Yeah, I expect
good playoff position.
I really expect a real good game there. If I get a chance during my schedule, I'm definitely going to watch that. So now we got the Patriots against the Ravens, Jack. A very intriguing game to me. The Ravens should beat the Patriots. Bill Belichick will try to stop Jackson. The Ravens will try to mess around and stop, Cam Newton. It's going to be a lot about the defenses. If the Ravens get ahead, I think the Patriots are in a lot of trouble. The Patriots have got to score first and put a 7-10 point lead so that the Ravens have to play from behind if they're going to have a chance at winning this game. I think the Ravens will win. I'm hoping the Patriots win, but I really think the Ravens will score first, and then they'll just play. The Patriots won't be able to catch up to them.
It's interesting the way some teams, their season goes in segments. It's easy to forget. The Patriots came within a whisker of being 3-0 to start the season.
Yeah.
They just barely missed beating Seattle on a goal line stand at the end. Had Cam Newton punched it in, they would be 3-0, and we would be looking at them as the New England Patriots we've known the last 20 years.
Right.
We'd be saying, wow, what a good move that was to move on from Brady, that the Patriots are much better off with Cam Newton, and on and on and on. I mean, this is a type of game today. I mean, the Patriots could win, but the Ravens should win the game. And I think people know with the Patriots, it's basically kind of reassemble, get ready for next year. But this is their last chance. If anything's positive is going to happen with the Patriots this year, they've got to beat the Ravens today, and I don't think it happens.
Yeah, tough test. And again, if they have any kind of chance, they're going to have to jump out really quick and get ahead of the Ravens. So, Jack, that's it for our Sunday show. Thank you to Anthony Cervino and Robert Butler, again, our weekly guests from Fantasy Football Faceoff and Sports Skope. We enjoy breaking down all the games, Jack. And we won't be back till Wednesday, and that's when we'll hopefully have a couple new and different guests for you. And if not, you'll just get to sit back and watch us do our thing, which I enjoy doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
have a good football Sunday, a good football Sunday for all of you.
I definitely will. And folks, join us back Wednesday when we'll be back on again, as always, 8 to 10. And we'll be here Wednesday through Sunday for you. So have a great Sunday. Enjoy the games. And we'll see you Sunday, folks.